World War I was a global war originating in Europe that lasted from July 28, 1914 to November 11, 1918. More than 70 million military personnel, including 60 million Europeans, were mobilized in one of the largest wars in history. Over 9 million combatants and 7 million civilians died as a result of the war. Coming up on Polk Place, we will hear about events commemorating Polk County's involvement in World War I. Make sure you stick around. Hi, welcome to Polk Place. I'm Tina Mann, your host, and joining me in the studio today are Murtis Young, the Historic Preservation Manager at the Polk County History Center.
Hi, Tina.
Hi. And Colonel Gary Clark, who is retired U.S. Air Force.
Howdy.
Welcome.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about a very important event in history and the events that are surrounding World War I. But first, I want to take a minute to introduce our special guest, Colonel Gary Clark. I'm curious to hear about your military history and a little bit about your involvement in the community.
Well, let's talk a lot about the community and more than I had 26 years in the Air Force, and it was a great career. I mean, I can't complain. Sort of started out in Vietnam and ended up in Desert Storm, so I had those were sort of the bookmarks. But there was an interesting statistics I heard just a few days ago that suggested that in modern history, in modern day history, the fewest number of people in our society actually know a veteran. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's lots of reasons for that. But one of the things we've tried to do through the Veterans Council is to raise the visibility of veteran contributions, not just to national security, and that's where monuments come in to sort of reflect that. But the other part is to let people know that veterans, once they hang up the uniform, they have skills mm-hmm. that can contribute to society, their community, and that's the other thing that we try to emphasize is with veterans, not only to assist them where they need when they need assistance, but also to let people know that these are people that have skills and abilities that can contribute to the communities they live in and society in general. And so one of the ways that we try to reinforce that is by preserving some of that history, particularly the military history and the conflicts that we've been involved in. For World War I, to our knowledge, there's not a countywide World War I monument. And that was one of the things coming up on the 100th anniversary of both the U.S. involvement in World War I, and next year in 2018, the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. We wanted to do that as a way of remembering that and reflecting on that. And that's when we partnered, or we offered to partner with the History Center here in Murtis and make all that come to life.
I know that, growing up, I've heard about Vietnam, I've heard about World War II, but this is really, for me, I mean, at 37, the first time I'm really hearing about World War I beyond just what the brief thing they did in the history books. So I understand this is your brainchild and Don Selvage's brainchild, and you kind of went to her. So you guys decided to basically collaborate and come up with a whole series of events that started with the Pioneer Luncheon. Why don't you kind of tell me about that and where that came from?
Well, Tina, it was a great opportunity for us when these two very respected gentlemen came to the History Center and suggested to me that we do something to commemorate this very important event in history. You know, we had a president who had vowed to stay neutral during this war. We had then lost 128 Americans with the sinking of the British Lusitania. And it just seemed to be apparent to this President Wilson, that we were going to be brought into this war, and it became, yes, a very, very significant point in history in our country. So of course we wanted to take this opportunity and tell the stories about this particular time, and particularly the impact that it had on Polk County. I was fascinated to learn in our research that 1,800 residents from Polk County entered the war effort and left Polk County to support that effort. So it is a very significant time. Of course, the Great War was the war to end all wars, and it really was the Great War that really began some links between some other very significant events. So we thought, how do you tell the story? And we created this collaboration for different events to occur throughout the year to bring to mind this point in history, but also to give all of our everybody an opportunity to really pause and think about these veterans and what happened to their lives and the impact they made at this particular time on our history.
That's really exciting. And I know that everything started with a Pioneer Luncheon, and beginning in September, I know we're going to be, pushing out different stories and vignettes and different information on social media and things like that to tell these stories. I know you have a couple of great examples of what they're going to see.
Well, the next event will occur on September 16th.
Right.
And what we'll be doing there is gathering at it's the Bartow Historic Oak Hill Cemetery. And the purpose of that is to bring to mind, again, these veterans that served in this war. We've identified 7 veterans of World War I who are buried there. And so we'll gather in the morning about 10 o'clock on that day and just have a little memorial service, but then a very important service. And what we're going to do is actually brighten up the headstones of these particular veterans. And this will include members of the Polk County Historical Commission, the Polk County Historical Association, the Veterans Council, and other members of the community. I'm thrilled that we also will be the anchored youth group from First United Methodist Church here in Bartow will have their youth group participating with us. And of course, that's what we look for, telling the story of history, but also bringing that to the attention of our young learners. So this youth group, who will be celebrating, First United Methodist Church is celebrating their sesquicentennial, so they wanted to participate in this commemoration, which is very much a part of the timeline of their history. So we've, like I said, we've identified 7 of these veterans. We'll clean their graves and just take again a moment to pause and think about their contribution to the war effort.
That sounds excellent, and it's so cool the process you're going to be using. I know that was featured in the news recently by, what does he call himself?
Well, it's the Good Cemeterian.
The Good Cemeterian, that's right, who also goes and cleans veterans' graves. Has become very popular on social media, and we're hoping our social media will go viral as well as we tell the stories of Polk County veterans and the things that we've learned through quite a bit of research. So, and then so they can keep an eye on social media up until November, when we kind of have a huge day planned on Veterans Day. So that is going to actually begin with a monument.
Absolutely. We'll start in Veterans Park, which is in Lakeland on the west side of overlooking Lake Beulah of the Lakeland Center, now the RP Funding Center. And we'll start with a memorial ceremony at 10 o'clock. And that'll be followed with the unveiling of a World War I monument. And what we're hoping in all that is that this monument, where it'll be located with other monuments to other conflicts, but that it would become a place of not only reflection and remembrance, but also education.
Right.
World War I was significant in a number of ways. First of all, it was sort of the ending of the royal empires, if you will. King George V and the Tsar of Russia were cousins.
Wow.
And they all descended from the German Prussian family. And so there was, it was sort of a family affair to some extent that started this whole, and it was brutal. I mean, it was a brutal conflict. You mentioned the numbers that were killed. We lost, American-wise, over 120,000 that were sacrificed in that conflict, and we were only in it for about 18 months. And France lost 1 million, and Germany lost over 1 million in that conflict. So that's huge when you think about the impact it had on the early years of the 20th century and how that reverberated through. So hopefully it'll be a way we can learn lessons from what happened there, and how are they applicable to today. And that's what we're hoping that comes out of all that. And we'll unveil that monument, and then we'll follow that with a parade through Lakeland. And again, you know, we'll have a number of folks that will participate in that, floats and marching groups and etc. So it'll be a big day. It'll be a big day.
And that's really exciting. So that is at what time?
It'll start at 10 o'clock, the
10
memorial
o'clock.
ceremony, but we'd ask for folks to arrive early, just because of parking and et cetera. But it'll start at 10 o'clock on Saturday, the 11th of November, and there's the whole series of events planned during that day, not just by the Veterans Council, but also by the Chamber of Commerce, et cetera.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
And I know everybody kind of needs to keep an ear out, because at 11 o'clock, county-wide, we're going to have a bell toll. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how that came about?
Well, this is just a very special way to bring this commemoration, this event, throughout the county. And so we've been working with the churches around the county, and they've been very receptive at 11 o'clock to ring their bells, to have a tolling. And that's just a moment, again, to pause and think about, what am I hearing? Something's happening. And to think about that and the significance of this particular time in history. I think it's extremely exciting that I learned from Colonel Clark that the Fireman's Monument has a bell. So I think they will begin the bell, and then we'll hear the tolling of the bells around the county.
I think that is so amazing, and I can't wait to experience that myself. You had mentioned the educational component for, you know, the monument, and you guys are carrying that over into the History Center with your exhibit that will be opening later that day.
That's correct. We'll open the exhibit. It'll be open for a year, from November 11th, 2017 until November 11th, 2018. And again, it's the same thing as the educational component. And you know, I always say, whatever is history, let's talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to bring out some artifacts that we've had in our collection that people haven't seen. Those will be placed in the exhibit. One of the components of the exhibit I'm really excited about is a collection of propaganda posters. As I mentioned, we have a president who had pledged to stay out of a war, and then suddenly overnight he has to build an army. So how did he do that? You know, the story, pull on the emotion and get people involved. So that exhibit will have those propaganda posters displayed. Another aspect, a component of the exhibit will be letters that were sent home from our soldiers that are away on, you know, foreign shores. And these letters would come to Bartow, to the Bartow Drug Company, and they would be posted there so people could come and read those. So we have a collection of those. And then just other artifacts that will be in place to get again, given a moment to think about, you know, what happened, what was going on. You know, these kinds of conflicts cause all kinds of things to happen. You know, phosphate was a very important industry in the county at this particular time in history, and as it has been ever since. But Russia was a major destination for phosphate. That stopped. So, you know, the stories of what happened in Polk County during this period of time will be in that exhibit. So we want to make sure we tell that story fully so people can get a concept of what was happening here during this period of time.
It's like a rock drops into a pond, it just creates ripples, and they keep going. And I mean, I know that every war has, you know, created changes and things that have affected us even today in the way we act and what we do and things like that. And you guys always do a great job of telling the story and making it interesting for all ages. So everybody is encouraged to come out, from littles all the way, you know, to your older littles.
Our older littles.
Your older littles. And I know you do an amazing amount of work for the veterans, and we thank you for your involvement in that and in this collaboration.
Well, it's you know, we want the people of Polk County, and you know, I'm an immigrant here too. You know, I didn't grow up in Florida or Polk County. I grew up in Kansas, but and this is a little ways away. But you know, there's things that there's people from this part of the country, from Polk County, that folks ought to look up to. That you know, and you know, James Van Fleet a native from Bartow, and who Harry Truman called the greatest general of World War II. And we need to be proud of that. Died at the age of 100. We've had Spencer Holland, who fought in World War I and went on to become senator and governor of the state. And of course Al Blanding, who not only was in World War I and has Camp Blanding named after him, but then was an advisor to the president during to the governor during World War II. Incredible leadership there that went on to become instrumental in World War II. So those are things that I think that residents of this county can really take pride in the history, as Meredith said. The history and the contributions during that conflict are incredible, and lots of counties cannot boast that kind of record.
True.
And yet, you know, Polk is sometimes looked at as kind of backward. We're actually very much in the forefront of national security, and always have been. And we should be proud of that.
We should be. I'm proud to be a native Polk County, and I was born and raised here, still live here. So, but honestly, until I worked here 3 years ago, I had no clue about our history. And Meredith has done a great job, and working with the History Center has really taught me a lot. So I thank you both for coming out today, and I'm looking forward to all the events that we have planned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Polk County Veterans Council and Polk County Historical Commission invite you to a ceremony honoring World War I veterans interred at Oak Hill Cemetery in Bartow on West Parker Street. Join them Saturday, September 16th at 10 a.m. Immediately following the ceremony, there will be a headstone cleaning detail. They also invite you to the dedication of a new World War I memorial monument at Lakeland Veterans Memorial Park at 150 Lake Beulah Drive in Lakeland, Saturday, November 11th at 10 a.m., followed by a parade and then an exhibit dedication at the Polk County History Center at 1 p.m. For more information about these events, you can check them out on the web at polkhistorycenter.org or give them a call at 863-534-4386.